Okay, so we're back and we're going to be working on the interface box as described in part 1 of our LWAN pedal board build. So we're going to be building this out, and if you've ever watched any of the other videos where I'm building out loop boxes or any kind of box like that, I always like to draw diagrams and draw them to scale or close to scale, lay everything out, do the wiring, and then get into actually machining the aluminum box itself. I think that's a good way of doing things, so you're less likely to ruin your box by making mistakes that you didn't plan for, so to speak. No one ever plans for mistakes, but you didn't plan correctly for success. So get all your materials together, right? And I have everything I'm going to need here on the table to build this out. I've got my jacks, because we're going to need a lot of these jacks, right? Input and output jacks, 1/4 inch. And these are the Lumberg jacks that have a really small profile, or rather small footprint. They can be nested really close together. I use basically about a little over 5/8 between centers. So that's really small compared to a switchcraft. And I get these from Small Bear Electronics up in my old home of New York. So big shout out to Small Bear. I got my DC input, which also I get from Small Bear. And this will be for powering my foot switches. And these are these really cool illuminated ring foot switches. And they're, what is this? Triple pole, double throw, which is cool. And they got the big colored guy on there. I got 2 reds and a blue for this. They come in different colors, green and plain and all that good stuff. Let's see what else I got. I got the box, obviously. I got a piece of blank paper to draw on. I have some different things here, a ruler, a square, another square, pens, markers, all that stuff. I got a multimeter for testing my switches, so I know how those are all set up in relation to orientation of the various switches and polarities for the LED. So we can just draw it all out, and then we can copy what we're doing. All right, so let's start. So the object of this loop box is twofold, or this interface box, I should say. It's to engage a loop, one single loop, as well as break out a signal, a stereo signal, 3 ways. All right, a dry, a delay, and a harmonized. So that leads us to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 jacks? Is that right? No, I can't be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 jacks. 12 jacks. 12 jacks plus one of these things. So 13 holes. 13 plays in there somewhere. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to do then, I guess, is let's lay out the box. So I'm going to get my marker, and I'm going to draw roughly the outline of said box. Right? With the marker. And this still has the protective plastic on the box, so I'm not really worried about drawing on it or nothing. So we got the box. Let's put that over here. So this is roughly what we want. Now we can start laying everything out. And the first thing I would like to do is, I think it's a good idea to have, as the pedal board is kind of going to sit with our switches, let's say like this, right? This will be to defeat the delay, defeat the harmonizer, and engage the loop. That will have all our jacks here and some here. And I think that'll work out good. Looking at what we had done yesterday as the actual board layout, I think that'll work out nice. So let's start with the top. Now on the top, we're going to have, let's say we put the outputs for, because we're going to have a harmonizer here and a delay here. So let's put the outputs here for the harmonizer and the delays here. So that leaves us with 4 less, so 8 jacks up at the top, plus the DC. So let's make the DC in the middle because that's going to supply all of our little illuminated foot switches, so we can indicate what functions are active and not active. So I think to do that, we'll put the DC in the dead middle. So let me move some of our stuff, get out our little ruler here, and we're going to locate the center of this particular box here. And I'm sort of using the edges here to determine. It looks like right here is our center. Okay, so this will be our DC in. All right, and then we're looking at basically about 5/8 of an inch between each jack will work out great. So I could go ahead and replace the ruler here. And I'm going to go, let's say, to separate out, we'll go 3/4 of an inch from dead center to designate the first of our input jacks. Okay? So we got that and that. Now we could go ahead and go, it's just a little over 5/8 between the jacks here. So we got 1/2 inch right here would be a jack, right? And we can move it back down again. 5/8, a little bit more, right about there would be a jack. And then we go to 5/8 and a little more, right about here would be a jack. Okay, and then we can duplicate the same thing on the other side. 5/8, a little bit more. 5/8, a little bit more. Just to leave us a little bit of room for error. 5/8 would work out to be plenty, but it's always good to leave yourself a little margin of error when you're machining stuff without using CNCs or anything like that. We're going to be using a drill press and hand drills and unibits. All right, so now we can go ahead and label what these jacks are going to do. All right, so we're going to have, this side's going to be for our loop, right, the cathedral loop, and this side will be our inputs and some of the breakout, right? So let's say that this is our input for the loop, and that would make this the output. So that'd be a loop, right? Loop in, loop out. This would be the send, and this will be the return. Okay, that's fairly easy to understand. Now on this side we would have, let's say that this will be, draw some arrows here. This will be the left and the right from our delay. All right, so we're right from delay. Okay, and these two, let's make those the dry outputs, right? Because we're having 3 pairs of signals which will be combined at the mixer. The dry output left and right, the delayed signals left and right, and the harmonized signals left and right, all running parallel. So this will be dry out, so we'll make this left and right, right? And I'm going to call this dry out. Okay, so that'll take care of the top of our box here. Now we're going to have to move to the sides to put in further expansion points. So let's, we can sort of see, like, we put a jack here, right? So let's make another jack somewhere around there. Let's see how far that works out to be from the, so let's say we do it at 1.5 inches, okay? On either side. So 1.5 inches right here, and then we could go, again, 5/8 in a little bit. And we could go over here. Inch and a half, and then we could go to 5/8 in a little bit. Okay, and then we can mark these as to what they are. So we'll make this what, left and right for the delay. So we'll make this out to delay, and this side we can do, like, it's a little bit weird when you're sort of looking at mirror images of things as well. Yeah, so this side would be what, left? Especially when you're dyslexic. Left and right. Okay, and this is out to the harmonizer. Okay. Now, we're going to have these three little guys in the box as well. These little foot switches to do all of our switching, right? Because this is passive. We're not going to be using relays. We're not going to be doing MIDI. We're not going to be doing anything like that. It's going to be just old school. So let's locate sort of where we're going to want these. Right? Something like that. Well, let's check the orientation too of those switches as we go along and figure out where they go. So I'm going to use my little guy here, and it looks like we're doing about an inch and a quarter, let's say, off the edge. And let's see how far from this way. What if we were like there? Yeah, I think an inch up and an inch and a quarter from the side. So put this down. So let's mark ourselves like an inch up here, inch up here. I'm just going to lightly scribe a little line, right? And then we're going to put, what did I say, an inch and a quarter? So there'll be one here. And from this side, there'll be an inch and a quarter, be another switch here, right? And then we're going to put one dead in the middle. Right about there. Okay. Alright, so these are our three switch locations. And now it's a good idea to start testing, like, how are these orientated? Like, do the switches go this way or this way? Horizontally or vertically? And we're going to use the multimeter with the continuity testing here, which will give us a audible beep. It's actually almost in tune with the music. It's kind of weird. Alright, so let's test which way they go. Okay, so they're running on this switch, the way I have it here, they're running horizontally. So I think we could go ahead and assume that's how we want to put them in. Alright, so I'm going to grab a one of these little pieces of cardboard here. Use the smaller one. Alright, and let's yeah, I think this will be fine. Let me square it off a little bit with a pair of scissors. I think I got a scissor right here. Okay. I could just use that as a template for drawing the switches. Now I'm going to move them a little bit from dead center. Or actually I could put them right there. That'll work fine. Alright. I'm going to draw a little switch. Right? The outline of the case. This music's a little weird. We should go back to playing some of that Ravel. That was kind of good. This sounds weird. Some sort of hymn. Okay, here we go. Now we can go ahead and put the pins in place. Use my little red marker here to do that. Okay. Now, many of you guys may be familiar with this switch. I'm not sure how long it's been around, but I just found them. But when I just find something, it usually means that everybody's already been there, done that, and over it. So, what can I tell you? But for those who haven't used these before, if you can look on the end here, they have two little leads coming out from a little printed circuit card that's lying underneath everything. And these are the leads for the LED. So I think now would be a good time to test the orientation of the leads as it sits, right? So we could go ahead also too and let's say we put out, we'll mark at least the leads, right? And then we'll figure out what's the polarity so we could draw all that in. So I got myself a little battery here and a little lead out for it. So I'm going to plug it into the battery. And then we're going to go ahead and test this guy and see which way is which, right? I think that's on. Alright, so it looks like, doesn't look like it is. The when I've got it in this position here, this side, right, this side over here, which is for me left, is positive. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in as positive, and this is negative, positive, negative, positive, and negative. Okay? So the reason that these are great too, well, they have the extra little set of a switch there that you can use to activate the LED to enunciate what position or what the function of the switch is at the time. So that's cool about the triple pole double throw switches. All right, so let's go ahead now and start drawing out our leads and how we're going to do it. So first thing we're going to do is obviously the output from the delay is really our dry signal. So we could go ahead and just connect left to left and right to right as our, I'll make a little lead out here so we can see him better, right? Okay, left to left, right to right. Now, we want to obviously switch when the delay is in and out. And what I'm going to do to facilitate the delay being moved out of the signal path is to shunt the input of the delay to ground. All right, so it's just basically a mute shunt. And that will be on the output jack side so we don't interfere with the other pieces that are run in parallel as well, because you don't want anything grounded when you're trying to get parallel signal paths where one is on and one is off, right? So you don't want to ground something in that line. You want to cut it off and ground up ahead. So what we're going to do then is we're going to have the outputs switched, as opposed on the the center lug on these would be the output of the switch itself. Left side click, right side click, center always sort of your center terminal, right? So we're going to go ahead and we'll put this one to here, and we'll put this one to here, right? And then we can ground this, and we can ground this terminal. So in one position, these two jacks will be grounded out. So our delay will be grounded out, and therefore no signal will be going through, and it won't interfere with how we have our phase issues all set up. So we got that, which is good. Next thing would be to put the input, right? So we would want the input, so we got right here, right? So we could go from, let's say from here, right to right. And then this is our left, so we'll go left to left. Okay, so it'll be either switched there or that will be grounded. Make sense? Of course it does. All right, so the third row of switch right here will be used for illumination. So we want to know when the unit is active will be lit. So this side of the switch, the right side of the switch, this side, is our active side. So what we'll do is we'll make this terminal right here our positive terminal. So we'll connect, here's our DC, right? So we're going to make this positive and this one negative. All right? So that'll be positive right here, connected there. We'll make the centers of each of these positive, right? Each one of these switches will have on that right there positive. And then we're going to gang all the negatives together. And that can go directly up to the negative terminal up here at the DC jack. All right, and then this will be obviously the positive. So on this side, we would want to connect a little resistor, a little current blocker resistor there. I'll use like, let's say like something like a 1K. So I'll just mark in a little 1K, and that will go up to the second terminal. So now when we switch, when we're in the position where we have the signal going out to the delay, we will have voltage applied to the LED at the base of the foot switch, and it'll be illuminated. So that's all taken care of. So that's our our delay signal. And we basically want to do the same thing for the harmonizer, right? Because it's doing the same exact function. We just have a slight sort of like maybe a mirror image to it here. So we could go ahead and, so we got the, what is this? So this is our left side, right? And this one's our right side. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll center to right there. And this one to right there. Same as over here. These can be grounded so as to mute when we don't want to use it. So the delay in the harmonizer will always be on, and we'll just be muting those when we don't want them. And then we're going to have, obviously, off of here, right to right and left to left. So the right first. Right, we'll bring this down, skip over that. And right is this one. Okay. And then our left will be this one. Okay. So right to right, left to left, grounds, same thing. This is our working side of the switch. So we'll be going from here, we'll be running to that LED. Right, so we'll make a little 1K resistor here, and that will be coming up to this point, right? Okay, so that's done. These two switches now are exactly the way we want them. The center one is reserved for the cathedral loop, so we could go ahead and start making that. So the way we do that is we would have the loop in, okay? Would be the center conductor here, because we're going to choose off of that where to send that signal. So we got our loop in there. Now we'll have, it'll either go to basically the output of the loop itself, or it'll go to a send, right? So we'll make this the output, right? And this will be the send. Okay, so what this side of the switch is doing is choosing between whether to send the input either just straight out and bypass this loop, or send it over to the send, which will head out to our, in this case, our compressor and our noise gate for just doing the cathedral setting. Okay, now we need to do the return, right? Because that'll come back to the switch again, and it has to be sent out, right? So we're going to have the loop out, right, which will go over to here, I guess, right across the switch, and then the center will go up to the return. All right, this terminal will be just left open. I suppose if you had some issues with, stray signal, you know, like you would in an amplifier, you might want to ground out an input or an output. But in this case, I really don't think that's necessary at all. We could just leave that stuff hanging off into space, and I don't think it's going to affect everything. If it does, we can put a ground there, but it shouldn't. All right, so now let's see. Now we want it illuminated when the loop is active, right? So loop active is this side, right? So right here is where we would want to put our resistor and go to the positive. Okay? So there we go. I should just put this in that these are all ganged, right? Just so that you know. Right? These are the positives from the DC supply, right? So we can just trying to make this as legible as possible. It's difficult when you're doing these things to often avoid. And there we go. To avoid confusion. So there we have it. That is basically our entire loop box. Schematically, or not schematically, but rather the layout, the wiring layout, and our physical location of everything. I'm just checking to see if we've forgotten anything. So we've got our loop in and out, got our DC, got our mutes, got the three things there. Yeah, so I think this is it. So I think we're good to go. The next step will be actually transferring our dimensions onto the aluminum box and start drilling it, and then we could start wiring it. So I think this is long enough for right now. We've sort of described the functions and the layout of the box itself. And next we get together, we'll be marking off the chassis, drilling it, and installing the hardware. And if we have time in that video, we'll also do the wiring. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. See ya.